guess what time it is? If you guessed it's time for another creepy story from Graveyard Dance, you'd be absolutely 100% correct. Since we're getting closer and closer to that spooky time of year, I figured, what better time to do a video on a collection of something that scares the living heck out of a lot of people, my pal Lane included, which would be scary spooky clowns. Some on the list today will be evil, some strange, and some may just give you a bad case of the heebie-jeebies. Either way, we hope you'll enjoy it enough to like our video and give it a huge thumbs up. I know you probably hate this part of the video when we ask the same favor over and over, but we really have to if we want to continue to bring you new and interesting videos. Why, you ask? Because YouTube is a big bunch of meanie butts and they take away a lot of ad revenue from creators who are like us, who bring you content that's not all bunny rabbits and sunshine. Without ad revenue, we don't get paid and our videos rarely get views. The more people who hit the subscribe button, the like button, and more importantly, the share button, the more it tells YouTube to take our type of content more seriously and therefore helps us make a living too. Another way is by picking up some new merch, which is in the description box below or at the top of the pinned comments in the comments section. Okay, with all that out of the way, here we go. Let's start out with the original OG. The father of all clowns, a man who lived long ago and was the first ever known to actually wear the white clown makeup and big red nose and lips, a man named Joseph Grimaldi. Born way back on December 18th, 1778, he was an English actor, comedian and dancer who became the most popular English entertainer of the Regency era. He was already very famous before creating the character of Joey the Clown, which was the creation of what all clowns that we know of today came from. It also made him even more famous than he already was, and fans, young and old, loved him for it. This was long before the evil clowns that we have seen in movies and TV that we have come to expect in almost all Halloween haunts to this day. Grimaldi retired from the stage in 1823 as a result of ill health. The years of extreme physical exertion his clowning had involved had taken a toll on his joints, and he suffered from a respiratory condition that often left him breathless. He passed away on May 31st, 1837, and his wife Mary died soon after, a short time later, said to be of a broken heart. A few decades later, Charles Adrian Wettick began performing in local music halls after growing weary of traveling with the local circus. He created the character which was very famous in its time, called Grok the Clown. He was one of the first clowns to start singing and playing instruments during his performances, but he would be far from being the last. As vaudeville began gaining in popularity as well as clowning thanks to Grok and the previously mentioned Joseph Grimaldi, clowning began to garner more and more people to paint on the white face. Up until now, all the clowns had one thing in common: they wanted to make people laugh and they were all happy. That is until Emmett Kelly created Weary Willie, a down-and-out hobo who wore tattered clothes. His most famous routine involved him trying to sweep up a spotlight and then appearing startled when it disappeared. Kelly reportedly modeled his character on Depression-era tramps. Kelly's first professional appearance as a clown was with Howe's Great London Circus on July 14, 1921, in Mason City, Iowa. Although he originally performed as a white-faced clown, it was during that tour that he first appeared as a hobo character. After only a few performances as a tramp, Kelly returned to more traditional makeup, but not before a photograph was made of the character which would later be identified as Weary Willie. Emmett had a long and impressive career and lived to be over 80 years old before passing on to clown heaven in 1979. Getting into the more creepier looking clowns brings us to the creation of Bozo the Clown in 1946. The character was created by and portrayed by Pinto Kalvik for a children's storytelling record album and illustrated read-along book. The character first appeared on U.S. television in 1949, portrayed by Kalvik. After the creative rights to Bozo were purchased by Larry Harmon in 1957, the character became a common franchise across the United States, with local television stations producing their own Bozo shows featuring the character. Harmon bought out his business partners in 1965 and produced Bozo's Big Top for syndication to local television markets, not producing their own Bozo shows in 1966, while Chicago's Bozo Circus, which premiered in 1960, went national via cable and satellite in 1978. Over the years, many different actors have done the red hair and nose to act as Bozo to entertain kids everywhere. Anyone who has ever ate at McDonald's already knows all about this red-haired fella, and anyone who's ever seen The Simpsons is more than aware of Krusty the Clown, so we'll breeze on by to the start of the evil clowns that people have all been hearing about for ages and who probably haunts the dreams of kids and some adults everywhere as a result. This guy, John Wayne Gacy, was probably the first to really give clowns a bad name. During the day, he probably seemed like a normal enough guy. Most sociopaths do, but he was anything but normal. Born March 17, 1942, Gacy grew up in Chicago, Illinois. He was reportedly abused severely as a kid. In 1960, at age 18, Gacy became involved in politics, working as an assistant precinct captain for a local Democratic Party candidate. He married his wife in 1964 and was going to be set for life if he hadn't clowned around and lost it all. His wife's parents were going to allow Gacy to manage 3 Kentucky Fried Chicken franchises, but instead of cooking chicken and making bank, he decided to kill young men and hide them all beneath the floorboards of his home. During this time, he took on the role of Pogo the Clown, entertaining the kids of the area while doing his dirty deeds as a serial killer. He was sentenced to death and was killed on death row on May 10, 1994, after only 12 years. Back to the fictional clowns, another big one starting in 1986 was the IT Clown, which was known as Pennywise, who was originally played in Stephen King's movie and book simply called It. It was about a clown monster who terrorized the children of a small fictitious town of Derry, Maine. If you look at the top photo, it kind of reminds you of Bozo the Clown, don't it? Although I've never been a huge fan of Stephen King, I do have to give him props for originality. By creating this character, it's helped me scare the heck out of some of my best and closest pals dressed in clown costumes. It even inspired me to start collecting clown memorabilia once, where I had a huge clown room. Fun times. Moving on. Another murder clown we did a story on a while back fits today's topic, so we'll mention her again. Sheila Keene was a woman who gained notoriety for her involvement in a high-profile criminal case. In the 1990s, she was accused of being involved in a murder case that attracted significant media attention. Sheila Keene was accused of being an accomplice in the murder of Marlene Warren in 1990. Marlene Warren was shot and killed at her home in Wellington, Florida, by a person dressed as a clown. The investigation eventually led to suspicion falling on Sheila Keene, who was believed to be having an affair with Marlene Warren's husband at the time, Michael Warren. It was alleged that Sheila Keene dressed as a clown and carried out the murder. Sheila Keene was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. However, due to lack of evidence and other legal complications, she was not convicted in the initial trials. The case remained unsolved for many years. In 2017, new evidence and advancements in forensic technology led to a re-examination of the case. Sheila Keene was arrested again and charged with first-degree murder in connection with the clown killing of Marlene Warren. In 2020, she was found guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. She eventually got a plea deal and received 12 years. In the years since all this, there has been countless clowns running around, clowning around and acting like clowns. Puns intended. In 2016, some clowns started walking around town and set up a website that tracked where he was and the responses he was getting from people, and the next thing you knew, there were people all across the United States walking around trying to outclown the next clown. They were literally everywhere, from lurking in the woods to standing around schools scaring kids and teachers alike, as well as standing around in parking lots terrifying customers of businesses everywhere. Thankfully, that fad died out, but that wasn't the last of it. 29-year-old Heriberto Feliciano from Holly Hill, Florida was closing up the pizza shop where he worked, only to be attacked by a man wearing, you guessed it, a clown outfit. The clown viciously beat Feliciano with a wooden pole and even grabbed some scissors and tried to stab him. Luckily, the pizza shop worker had a conceal and carry license and wasn't afraid to use it. He fired several shots into the clown and narrowly avoided the obituary column himself the next day. It was all caught on camera, so luckily, no charges were filed against the pizza worker. I'm sure if Joseph Grimaldi knew what was becoming of his beloved creation, he'd probably be rolling over in his grave. Are you or have you ever been scared of a clown? We'd love to hear about it in the comments below. We'd also love to hear of any cases you may want to hear covered. We do everything ranging from true crime, dark history, UFOs, and things of that nature, and basically anything spooky, odd, weird, or creepy. Thanks for watching, y'all. Till next time.